Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast. Today we are speaking with Lori Lisai. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to be so excited about what we're doing today. I know I'm
Hmm.
excited.
Yay. Me
So,
too.
Lori had me do my human design chart before we started recording, and she was talking to me a little bit about it. But gosh, I just have to have you guys listen. It's so fascinating. So, welcome to the show, Lori. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad
Thank
that
you
you're
so
here.
much. I'm so
And
glad we connected.
I'm so glad that you thought about doing this way because it's so interesting. So I I should ask you just really quickly, how did you get started and why human design?
Yeah. So I was taking a manifestation course a few years ago, and it was part of a manifestation course. And I had heard kind of, inklings about it before and had the chance to really dive into it during that course. And I just sort of, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of coming upon something and it just like lights you up and from like inside, you're like, for me, I could not get enough. And as a 5-1, which we can talk about, I think this will probably resonate with you, that then you want to know all the things. You want to go find all the things and learn all the things about it. And so that was my experience. And human design, we describe it as astrology on steroids, or some people choose to describe it that way. And I think it's a great way to kind of explain what it is in sort of layman's terms, because most people are familiar with astrology, and they kind of can identify their sun sign at least. And human design actually has astrology as part of its system, and it just expands on that. So it's really a collection of systems, ancient wisdom, so Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah, and combining that, the chakra system, combining all of that with genetics and quantum mechanics. So there's like, it's kind of like an artsy science. And what I've experienced for myself is just this depth of learning about myself and understanding other people that has just helped me navigate life differently, and I think in a more like fulfilling way. So yeah, that's how I came to it.
So fascinating. And she's going to go through, I went to her website, which is lorilisai.com, and there's a human design chart that you can fill out the little form, and it will send you a copy of what your human design chart looks like. And I did that, and Lori has looked at it, and she's going to kind of go through it with me over mine, but she will do this for you also. I assume that's your coaching that you do.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can find out how to get in touch with her through that. But if this is fascinating to you, as it is to me, you're going to want to do this and go look Lori up and have her tell you what it all means. So back
So
to
good.
you, Lori.
Okay. All right. Well, the first thing I'll say is, in order to get your chart, just like you would run a natal chart, you need your birth date, your birth time, and your birthplace. So the one factor that a lot of people get hung up on is the birth time, and it is important. Some major things can shift from hour to hour. Some major things can be different. For example, your type, your energy type, which is one of kind of the places that we first look in your chart for information about you, that could change, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, for example. So the closer you can get, the more accurate your birth time, the better. And I would suggest, looking at your birth certificate and seeing if there's a time on there. If there's no time on there, which does happen, you can call the hospital where you were born. You can also, talk to friends and family members who may have been there and might have some memory of around the time. And then some of the more like esoteric ways of finding your time are to use a pendulum, if you're comfortable with that, or if you know somebody who is, and or you can do something called a birth chart rectification, which is working with somebody who is trained to actually narrow down your birth time to the minute. So those are all some ways, and I'm just really encouraging you to be as specific as possible because it will shift some things. So that said, once you go to my website and you put in your information, it will generate a chart for you. And there is a lot on the side that just sort of gives you the breakdown of some of the basics, and actually a little bit more than the basics, but it gives you a lot to kind of consider about yourself. So what I wanted to talk about for you, Jill, were the basics that we like to start with, which are type, strategy, authority, and then we can talk about your profile as well, since I mentioned that earlier. So type in human design is similar to like your sun sign in astrology, for example, where there are 5 types in human design. And the type that we're describing here is your energy type. It's like how your energy is meant to kind of function in the world. So for you, you are a generator type, and that generators make up about 37% of the population ish. So there are quite a few of us here. I am also a generator. There are quite a few of us here, and generators are here to do what lights them up, essentially. Which, doesn't that sound great for everybody? Everybody should be doing what lights them up. And that's absolutely true. Except generators have this sacral energy, and what makes a generator is actually having your sacral, what's called defined. So if you look at your chart, it's the square, the second square from the bottom, and if it's colored in, then it's defined. If it's not colored in, it's undefined or open. And so sacral beings, which would be generators or manifesting generators, which I'll talk about in a moment, they have this sacral energy, which is life force energy. It's like energy to move things into existence. It's like creative powerhouse, energy. And so they are able to take an idea, and bring it into form. And it's really important that they're doing what lights them up, meaning what their sacral responds to, because they have so much energy and they can do stuff. And so people tend to be really attracted to that. That's also part of their aura. It's very warm and enveloping and inviting. And so people tend to be really attracted to it, and we'll ask them to, help them do XYZ. And so sometimes generators can really struggle with saying, no, thank you. Or I know I have the energy for that, but I don't really want to do it, so I'm not going to do it. And so it's kind of learning that balance and really truly following what lights them up. So I'm curious, because that is your energy type, if that resonates with you.
Totally resonates.
Okay.
And the part about knowing you can do something, but setting clear boundaries for myself to not do everything is super hard for me. Because stuff comes easy and it's exciting, and I want to do everything, and I'm pretty good at a lot of things. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So
just
true.
take the ball and
And
run with it.
yeah. And I think generators are so programmed to kind of to do, and we tend to really fill our schedules full of things. And the generators I work with, I do spend quite a bit of time encouraging them to schedule free time. So they can just literally practice responding, which is part of, that's their strategy. That's like how they are meant to kind of make their way in the world, which we'll get to. So just having free space in your schedule and not feeling guilty about it, and just sort of using it as an energetic hygiene kind of practice can be super helpful for generators. There's a subtype, or I count them in the 5 types of generators, called manifesting generators, and they are a combination type, the only hybrid type, and they are part manifestor, which was one of the other types, and part generator. So they make up about 33% of the population. And I want to kind of put a pin in them for a second, because if you think about the fact that generators and manifesting generators together make up about 70% of the population. So we're very much living in a generator world. And as generators, if you are that type, I think it's really important to recognize that, and recognize that even though we've kind of built this world that's pretty focused on sacral beings, to have empathy for people who don't fit into that, who are in that 30%, because it's just really important to know what they are bringing to the collective and how we can use our energy to support one another, versus having generators kind of pushing non-sacral beings to have the kind of energy that we have, which just doesn't work.
That explains
So
so much.
yeah.
And I know exactly who you're talking about. I don't know what the names of those energy types are, but I know when I run into them, they're frustrating for me because they're
Yes,
not go getter. Do it. Let's do it.
yes. Oh my gosh. And I love that you use the word frustrating. We'll come back to that. So I'm actually going to, like I said, put a pin in the manifesting generator, because I want to talk about manifestors, and then bring the two together for the manifesting generators. So manifestors make up about 8-ish% of the population. They are one of the non-sacral types, so they don't have that sacral definition. They don't have that life force energy, that not necessarily drive, because it can be a little different. Like drive and life force energy, are kind of different. It's like you've got the life force energy to do, but the drive actually can take you across the finish line, right? So manifestors, their aura is actually kind of like a Teflon suit. It's like repelling, and it's discerning, I like to describe it as, because it lets the right people for them into their aura, but it keeps most people out. So that is to say that a lot of people don't get manifestors. They just don't get you. And that's okay. You aren't here to be people pleasing. You're not here to be doing what others expect or necessarily even want you to do, because what you are here to do is initiate and be the fire starters of the world. So it's this beautiful role where you really are here to change things up, and so in partnership with a generator, you can like seed the idea, and then a generator can help you, take it across the finish line or support you in some ways. And it's not to say that manifestors don't have energy, because they absolutely do. It just works differently than a generator. So this comes back to the idea of like, how can we all support each other? So
I like
if
the
there are
idea,
people,
people.
yeah, absolutely. And manifestors have sort of this direct connection to source, where they hear an idea, or however it comes in, their intuition can work in different ways. But They receive ideas and then run it through their authority to see, like, is this something I'm meant to act on? So that's manifestors. We have generators, and then that combo type, coming back to the manifesting generator, brings a little bit of both. And manifesting generators, really depending on their chart, they can be one of three ways. They can be like a pure manifesting generator if they have what's called the channel 3420, or they can be a little bit of generator and a little bit of manifester, or they can be a generator with a little manifester. So it's like, it really depends on your specific chart, how it kind of breaks down. But being a combination type, you do have a little of that initiating energy, that like charge to get things done. Plus you've got that life force energy. So the main difference between a generator and a manifesting generator, or we call them mani-gens or man-gens, the main difference between those two is a generator is sort of like the turtle in the race, is like, not that they move slowly necessarily, but just like kind of steady pace, moving along, becoming a master. Yeah. And the man-gens, on the other hand, are the hare, where they are all about multitasking and bouncing around from different things. They've got like 27 balls in the air that they're juggling. They're masters of efficiency. So they're the ones who are going to throw the manual out and put the thing together. And then they have 5 screws left and they're like, crap. So then they're like, where do the screws go? And so they're really great at refining systems, because they have learned, how do we become more efficient at things? How do we like find the shortcuts? So these are pieces that are kind of the calling card for manifesting generators. And their aura is like a generator, so it's warm and enveloping as well. Then we have projectors. Projectors make up about 20% of the population. Again, a non-sacral type, and their aura is piercing. If you've ever met a person where you just feel really seen on a very deep level, like intuitively, that is the gift of the projector. They see people in a very deep way, and they are here to be our guides. So if we're looking at all of the types, manifestors are the initiators, projectors are on this path. So say the manifestor chooses the path, we're going this way. Projectors are there to say, okay, I'm going to show you how, and they are guiding the generators and manifesting generators. So projectors make really wonderful leaders, and the trick here is for them to be invited, because a lot of times they will see things that most other people won't, particularly in systems or how things work. And they'll want to share that, they know how to make it better, know how to make it run well, or somehow fix wherever things are going wrong. And people aren't always necessarily ready to hear that information. So some projectors might be called no sticking your nose where where it doesn't belong, or bossy pants, or that sort of thing. But I think to understand a projector is a really beautiful thing, and I have some really amazing projectors in my life that I feel really fortunate to be in their energy. So we had manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and then the last type are reflectors. And last but definitely not least, they're only 1% of the population. So to know a reflector is a relatively rare thing. They are our cosmic mirrors. Essentially, they are here to reflect literally for us kind of the health and well-being of like a group of people, an environment, what is going on and how people are approaching things. The originator of human design, he said, wouldn't it be great if we just hired reflectors to be on every single staff of every business and company to just be who they are so that they can show us, where and how we can improve. So reflectors they need lots of time to experience life, let things unfold, and take things in. They're extremely sensitive beings. If you look at a reflector's chart, you'll notice that every single shape, every single center is not colored in, it's white. And that's what makes them very unique. They're taking in all of that energy from other people. So those are the 5 types of energies. And I think it's a great place to start to kind of understand a little bit about how your energy works in conjunction with other people,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take another sip.
Good, good. This is fascinating.
Okay.
You're doing a lot of talking. You need to hydrate.
I know. I know. Okay, so the other component that I mentioned, type, and strategy was one of the other components that's really important. And your strategy is all about how you are meant to like make your way in the world or take action. And sometimes it's actually, for most of us, there's an element of waiting, which I just want to talk about for a second because we live in such a fast-paced world and there's so much pressure on people to like make quick decisions, and it's almost seen as a positive attribute, right? If you can think on your feet and know in the moment what it is that we need to do or want to do or whatever. And I just want to say that most of us are not actually designed that way, like designed for that. So I guess this is just like permission to take your time with things, especially if that's an important part of your design. So for generators and manifesting generators, their strategy is to wait to respond is what it's called. And basically what that means is you are looking to become aware of what is in your environment and look for things to respond to. So lucky us, there's never a lack of things to respond to in our world, right? Especially with things moving as quickly as they are. But even if you lived in a cabin out in the middle of the woods off the grid, you would still be in response to the environment around you. It's really about what comes into your awareness. So it's like I can't remember the number, but there is a statistic for the likelihood of anything coming into your awareness at that specific time in that specific way is infinitesimal, like so much so that it's like if you were to chart it out in statistics class, it would be like it wouldn't happen. So right. Unlikely to happen, right? So the idea is that if it's coming into your awareness, it's meant to be in your awareness. It's meant to like catch your attention somehow. So as a generator type, you're looking for those things. Like, what is coming into my awareness? What am I noticing? And can I listen to my gut essentially as a generator type and see how it's responding? So, for example, I'll use our connection as an example. We connected through a podcast group on the Facebook. So, I was scrolling through, like looking for different places, and it caught my eye. I read through it, and I felt the sacral hit, like the little, for me, it's kind of like a bubbling sensation of like expansiveness. Different generators describe it differently, but tuning into your gut to see like, does this sound good to me? Does this feel like a fit? And does it feel like I have energy for this? So using your sacral to respond to things. And if it's, as a generator, if you're not feeling anything in your gut, or you feel kind of a drop or a quiet, then it's a no. Just leave it. So it might be right at another time, but not necessarily. So strategy for generators and manifesting generators is all about waiting to respond. For projectors, it's that waiting for an invitation. So just, they've got these ideas, or they see those systems that can be fixed and changed, but really what they need to do is wait to be invited into the conversation. And basically what that waiting does, and that invitation, is smooth the road so that people can hear what it is that they have to share. Otherwise they tend to be a little less open to hearing the ideas. For reflectors, it's waiting a lunar cycle. That's a long time, right? But I mentioned with reflectors, it's really about time and letting things unfold. And also, I would say for reflectors, learning about their patterns. What kinds of things do you see coming into your awareness that are patterned, and using that to sort of help you? And then manifestors are waiting for urges. So urges for them can look very different. As I mentioned earlier, they might have that direct connection with source, universe, God, whatever you call it, in different ways. And basically it's this urge. They just have this sense that they need to, move on
There's
something.
snow. It's got to be done.
Exactly. So that's a bit about strategy. Do you have any questions about that before I move on to authority?
No, this is
Okay.
fascinating.
Okay.
I've always been curious about human design. I thought I knew what it was, but I was mistaken.
Okay.
And this has been such, just the fact that we are connecting, it has been such a synchronicitous event, because we had she was going to have Casey interview her, and then it ended up that I interviewed her because Casey had something to do. And this is just like, it's what I needed to hear today. This is such a gift. So
Such a great example of how, right, things shift because they're meant to shift, right? Uh,
yeah, just being open to it. It's like I could have been like, oh no, the sky is falling and I got to change all these things. I had these plans, but it's all good. It's
so good. So good. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And I hope that some of this is
this.
landing for your listeners as well. Um, because I think there's so much, honestly, there's so much practical kind of learning that you can take from human design that can be really, really helpful in your life.
Mhm.
Uh, so actually the last piece that I'll talk about is the authority. And that's talking about practicality. I think this is such a great example. Your type and your strategy are a little bit more about like how you function in connection with other people, whereas your authority is your decision making. And one of the main teachings of human design is that your decisions are not meant to be made in your head. So the idea of like a pros and cons list, or, really kind of thinking hard about what it is you should do, um, is not actually how you are designed to make decisions. How you're designed is one of 7 different ways, and some of them are directly connected to type and some of them are not. So the first way, and 50% of the population has this authority, so it's a lot of us, both of us are included in that, is the emotional authority. And emotional authorities are, it sort of sounds counterintuitive, but we're actually not designed to make decisions when we're in an emotional state, I guess you could say. So what that means is we are here as emotional beings to experience a lot of emotion. However, when it comes to making decisions, we're meant to kind of experience a wave. And so emotions come in waves. There's often a high point and then a low point. And we're meant to experience the wave, its high point, its low point, and then come to more of a neutral. So, if you're using an analogy of, a pond, it's like the rock gets thrown in to the pond and the ripples come out, and then there's this stillness that comes about. And it's that stillness point really that you're looking for when it comes to decision making. So that does take time. We recommend that you wait at least one sleep. So you like let your body just sleep on a decision. If it's a bigger decision, sleep many sleeps. But basically what you're looking for is the first feeling of, yes, I would love to do this. It's exciting. It resonates with you. And then just let it sit for a little bit. And you'll probably come to this place of, well, I would like to do this, but I'm so busy, or XYZ is getting in the way and I can't because of this, and blah, blah, blah. Wait past that as well, until you come to a more neutral place and just see, like, okay, do I feel like I have the energy for this? Do I feel like this is a good fit? Does it resonate? I say for myself, like, it just felt right. So that's how I would often describe it for me, or it felt wrong, and so I didn't. And feeling grounded and really like not having to explain yourself about why you decided that way, like it felt right or it felt wrong, is reason enough for an emotional authority. So that's emotionals. Then you've got sacrals. So there's a hierarchy in human design. It's like you kind of work your way through the centers and definitions. So if you have a defined emotional authority, meaning it's colored in, then you are emotional. If you have no defined emotional, but you have a defined sacral, then that means you're a sacral authority. So this is the listen to your gut authority, which means you've got to listen to that and really create a relationship with what does it feel like in your gut, because it's going to be different for different people. So learning to identify, how does it feel? What does a yes feel like? Some people describe like a full body flush, and when you don't get that, knowing that it's a no, and not saying yes just because you've got that energy. And again, these are going to be generators or manifesting generators because they're sacrals. So, with your sacral, the other thing to note about that is it's not like they don't need time. They actually know in the moment what the answer is, as long as they're really tuning into their sacral. And if they are like, the tricky thing is that it can change. So if they're wondering about something, you know, a week from now or whatever, it could potentially change. Their sacral could get a different, you know, hit later on when that event comes around or whatever. So if it's a big decision, I just like to encourage sacrals to run it through a few times, you know, and kind of see how they're feeling, to just mostly feel strong within that decision. If both of those centers are undefined and your spleen is defined, which is the triangle on the left-hand side of your chart when you're looking at it, then you have a splenic authority. And this one is all about intuition and making decisions based on your intuition. So this is really about learning how your intuition speaks to you. And that's where we get into the different clairs, like, are you clairaudient? Do you hear it? Does it, you know, literally speak to you? Do you see it? Are you clairvoyant? Do you know it? Are you claircognizant? So just learning, like, how does your unique intuition speak to you? And then again, trusting it. Most of the time with splenic authority, your decisions are going to be focused on like your health or well-being. It kind of all comes down to like what is best for your health and well-being. If those three centers are undefined, but your will, which is the little triangle in the human design body graph, if that is colored in, then you have a will, or G, or sorry, not G, a will or ego authority. And this is all about desire and about basically being kind of selfish. I mean, what other people might consider selfish, but it's basically like doing what you want and what you truly in your heart desire and know what's best for you. That is your authority. It's a pretty small percentage of the population. I think maybe, not positive about this, but somewhere it's under 10%. It's like maybe 8 or something like that. So it's a pretty small population, but really learning to shed the conditioning around being selfish and understanding that if you are an ego or, you know, will center authority, knowing that what if you're doing what's best for you, it actually is what's best for everybody around you. So if you have all of those centers undefined, but you have your G center or your identity center, that's the diamond shape in the middle, connected to your throat, which is the one right above it, the square, then that is called a self-projected identity. And these are projectors. So one of the projector authorities is self-projected, and basically they have to talk things out in order to know what to do. They've got to use their voice, and it's more about like the resonance of their voice and hearing how they're saying things, not even necessarily what they're saying, but like how is it coming out. So it can be really helpful to have somebody to talk to kind of reflect for you, or record it into your phone and listen. You know, that can be really helpful too. And then if your throat is defined and your ajna, which is the second triangle down, that is a mental projector. And again, they need to use their voice. So notice both of those authorities are connected to their throat. They need to use their voice to make decisions as well. The difference is that their environment is going to be really important. So similar to like a reflector, which I'll talk about in just a second, they've got to be in an environment that feels supportive in one way, shape, or form, and talk it out. So I use my son as an example oftentimes for this, because he's a mental projector and he talks to himself all the time. And you know, we used to wonder, like, what is he doing? And we realized this often happens in children, that they come to their authority very naturally until we condition it out of them. And he just processes things verbally, and he'll talk through this is the situation, these are my options, this is what's happening, how do I feel about this, full conversation. So that is super helpful for projectors. So just encouraging that if you know one, or if you're a parent of one or a partner of one, to really help them. And if you are helping to reflect to them, helping by saying, this is what I hear, and not bringing your own bias or your own opinion into that, but really just trying to say, this is how I heard you say it, this is what I heard you say. And then the last authority is the lunar authority, which is just reflectors have this. That means they have no definition in any of the centers. And again, it's about that lunar cycle and noticing patterns and being in the right environments to make a decision. So, really kind of just noticing who you are on all the different days, because you're going to be very probably different, in different scenarios and around different people. And so coming back to nature can be really, really helpful for reflectors to kind of find their center and understand what's going to be best for them. So that's a little bit about authority.
Incredible. Can I ask you a question about the actual diagram?
Yes.
If they're colored in, then that applies to you. Like if they're blue, that's under the personality category. And then if it's yellow, it's under the design category. Do some people have these forms filled in under design, or is it always just in the little tubes?
So everybody's human design chart will be different. If you are defined in an area, then on my website, it's going to show up in that bluish color. And definition essentially means like where we are here to share that energy. Think of it like a radio transmitter, like we transmit that energy. So it comes to us naturally. And we tend to be able to identify it a little bit more easily. If it's white, then we are receiving the energy. So it's inconsistent because it's like flowing through us from other people who have definition, but we don't. And so we take it in and amplify it. But then if we're not around that energy, it's gone. And so it's not really there for us. So there's huge capacity for wisdom in our open centers, because we kind of learn about that energy from other people and how it looks in different ways. And we're able to really help people navigate it, versus where we're defined, it's almost like fixed, it's like, this is the design we came here with and what we have to offer. And then the yellow side, those, and the blue side, the two lines on the side of your body graph, those are details about your gates. So those are the little numbers within the shapes, and your planets. And then the blue side is your conscious, and the yellow side is your unconscious. So conscious and unconscious, it's like which ones are a little bit more, maybe we can identify them a little more easily in ourselves, are the conscious side. And then the unconscious is like a little less, we maybe don't identify it right away, or other people can really see it in us, or it's something that we come to know over time. Okay. I know, it's a lot of information. I basically gave you like 3 chapters of a book here.
Yeah, I just feel like there's so much, but it's like I just want to know more. How do people work with you? How does this work?
Yeah, so you can go to my website. I have different sessions there. I usually encourage people to book an intuitive session if they're just looking for kind of a basic understanding of their chart. And I oftentimes will ask if you have any questions beforehand, usually people come to me oftentimes if they're in some sort of transition, or contemplating a transition of some kind, and they're trying to, just figure out what's next. And so that can be helpful for me as a generator, especially to have something to respond to and to know where to look in the chart. So yeah, I would encourage you to check out my website, see the sessions that I offer. And then I also do work with clients one-on-one, like longer term, to sort of unpack, your full design, as well as just how do you actually integrate it into your life and use it, as a tool. Because it's wisdom, and knowing about yourself is one thing, and then putting it into action is another. So like, how do you get practical with it? Which is kind of a 5-line thing.
Wow. Thank you so much for all of this information. It's been like, I keep saying fascinating because it's been fascinating.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Is
I'm
there
so glad it was helpful.
one thing that you'd like to leave the audience with today, Lori?
Oh my gosh. I would say, learning your human design is like a cosmic permission slip to be who you came here to be. And I think a lot of times when people have their chart read, there's a lot of recognition, like, oh yeah, I knew that. And I've been keeping that in a nice little box up on the shelf. And so this is a chance for you to, take that down and unwrap it and actually let your beautiful soul shine. So that's my hope for what human design can do for people.
That's amazing. And I think a lot of people do need that permission. It's like we all come here with something that we're supposed to do. And often we're trained to stifle that urge, which is so sad to me because how much better will the world be when people start stepping into the purpose that they came here to accomplish? That
Yes.
just
Oh
like,
my gosh.
which is all about why I do what I do. But
Yeah.
it's just like, and I can feel the shift. People are changing how they're behaving and what they're saying yes to and what they're saying no to, and it's fascinating to me to watch it unfold and to get to be a small part of it is just like glorious.
So good. So good.
It is
Yes.
so good.
Yeah. Spoken like a
So
generator who's following what lights her up.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well,
Well,
thank you
thanks
so
again.
much, Jill. Yeah, I really appreciate your time today. It was great to meet you.
You too.